Have you ever felt like you're living two lives inside one body? Like you're constantly switching between two different versions of yourself. And no one around you even notices? Or maybe you've met someone who seems impossible to understand. One moment, they're the life of the party. The next, they're lost in deep thoughts. People call them unpredictable, elusive, mysterious. But what if I told you? That's not a flaw? It's a hidden strength. Because behind that shifting personality lies a soul that's fighting to be understood. Today, we're talking about Gemini, the zodiac sign everyone thinks they know, but secretly misunderstands. Geminis are not just social butterflies. They're not just quick thinkers. They're not just charming people who can talk for hours. They are complex souls. Souls that carry two worlds inside. And understanding them is like learning to speak the language of contradiction. In this video, we'll uncover the hidden psychology of Gemini. Why they act the way they do. What their emotions really mean. And how their duality reflects something much deeper about human nature itself. If you're curious about yourself, or someone you love, this video will change the way you see them forever. So, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Now, are you ready to dive into the mind of Gemini? Let's begin. Have you ever talked to someone and felt like they understood you completely, even when you didn't explain much? Like they could mirror your thoughts, your emotions, your way of seeing life, without effort? That's not a coincidence. That's a Gemini at work. But here's the truth no one tells you. When a Gemini mirrors others, they're not just trying to make you feel comfortable. They're searching for pieces of themselves in you. It sounds strange, doesn't it? But think about it. Geminis live with duality. They feel like two people trapped inside one body. Two minds. Two hearts. Two ways of thinking about life. Every conversation, every relationship. It's a small chance to understand who they really are. They observe you not just to know you, but to recognize themselves through your reactions. It's like standing in front of a mirror that talks back. If you're close to a Gemini, maybe you've felt this. That strange mix of intimacy and distance. They seem close, yet hard to truly know. Why? Because they're still trying to know themselves. And every time they adapt to you, every time they mirror your energy, it's their way of learning who they could become. But why are they like that? Why this endless search? It's written in their stars. Ruled by Mercury, the planet of communication and movement, Gemini carries restlessness in their soul. You might see them switch careers, change their hobbies, even reinvent their personality overnight. It's not because they're unstable. It's because standing still feels like drowning. Deep down, they believe that if they stop moving, they'll stop existing. Mercury pushes their minds to constantly evolve, to explore every version of themselves that might exist. Maybe you know a Gemini who always has a new plan, a new passion, a new way of thinking. People might call them flaky or indecisive. But now you know the truth. It's not indecision, it's survival. Reinventing themselves isn't a choice. It's how they breathe. And yet, there's something else hidden beneath that motion. Something most people never see. A secret even Geminis rarely admit. Their unpredictable emotions are not just part of their personality. They're a shield. Think about it. If no one can predict your next move, no one can truly hurt you. Their constant shifts, their joy, their distance, their laughter, their silence, it's all part of protecting their heart. Emotional unpredictability becomes their safety net. If you don't know where they'll go next, you can't follow them deep enough to break them. But here's the paradox. While they protect themselves from being hurt, they're also protecting themselves from being loved. Because real connection needs stability. And that's the one thing Geminis struggle to give. Maybe you felt this if you've loved a Gemini. One moment, you're holding their heart. The next, they're gone. Not physically, but emotionally. Like a door closed quietly, without explanation. It's not rejection. It's fear. Fear that letting you in means losing control. And yet, this constant dance between closeness and distance isn't something they chose. It's their way of surviving the overwhelming emotions they carry. They don't always understand it themselves. They just feel safer when no one can predict them. And that mystery, that unpredictability, ironically becomes what draws people closer. Because let's be honest, we're all drawn to what we can't fully understand. The unpredictable fascinates us. The unknown keeps us coming back. Geminis know this. They live it. Their emotional shifts confuse and captivate, making you want to stay, to discover more, to solve the puzzle that is their soul. But here's something even more fascinating. Geminis aren't just mentally restless. Their love for paradoxes and contradictions runs deep. Ever seen a Gemini argue two opposite sides of the same debate? They do it naturally. They're not trying to confuse you. They're searching. Testing ideas, testing themselves. Deep inside, they feel like they are the paradox. One part of them craves stability. The other rebels against it. One side wants connection. The other guards solitude like a treasure. And so, their mind is like a coin spinning endlessly in the air, never landing on heads or tails. Their love for contradictions isn't just intellectual curiosity. It's self-reflection. Every paradox they explore is a metaphor for their inner conflict. This is why conversations with a Gemini can feel like traveling through different worlds. One moment they're dreaming big. The next, they're doubting everything. It's not inconsistency. It's honesty. You're witnessing both sides of their soul speaking in turns. And here's something you should remember. When you argue with a Gemini, you're not fighting them. You're helping them explore their own duality. Don't try to win. Just listen. You might become the mirror they've been searching for. In real life, this can make relationships with Gemini both thrilling and exhausting. You might never know which version of them you'll meet. But if you understand their duality, not as deception, but as survival, you'll unlock a whole new level of connection. So, if you're close to a Gemini, or maybe you are one yourself, ask this simple question: what are you protecting with your unpredictability? What are you searching for in your constant reinvention? And maybe, just maybe, you'll realize you're not as lost as you think. You're just exploring. Like a true Gemini soul. Have you ever wondered why some people flirt not just to connect, but to protect themselves? It sounds strange, yet it's true. Gemini does exactly that. When they flirt, it's not always about romance. Sometimes, it's a way of keeping emotional distance. A method to test how far they can let you in, without giving too much away. Flirting for them is like dancing around vulnerability. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, afraid to jump, yet unable to walk away. That's how Gemini feels in relationships. Every teasing smile, every playful conversation, it's a step closer to the edge, but never quite the leap. They flirt to explore your boundaries and their own. It's not a game. It's self-preservation. They want to know, can you handle their duality? Can you meet both versions of them and stay? And when a Gemini finally lets you in, you'll notice something deeper. They don't give their heart easily. Their affection isn't something they scatter around. When they love, it's rare, special, precious. And that's exactly why it feels so intense. Their love is selective not because they don't feel, but because they feel too much. To protect their freedom, they choose carefully. Not everyone earns a place in their hidden emotional world. So if you're close to a Gemini who seems distant, don't take it personally. They're guarding something fragile, their sense of independence. To them, love isn't surrender. It's a risk. And when they finally give their affection, you'll know you're one of the very few who ever reached that far. Treasure it. Because their love, once given, becomes a force unlike any other. But there's something beautiful in how simple they are once they trust you. You might think someone so complex needs grand gestures. But no. A Gemini doesn't need perfection to feel connected. They don't need candlelit dinners or elaborate plans. What they crave is the energy of the moment. The feeling of being understood without pretense. A spontaneous walk. A random deep conversation at midnight. A road trip with no destination. These small things become unforgettable memories in the eyes of a Gemini. I remember once hearing a Gemini woman say, "I don't care where we go. I care how I feel when we're together." And that's the truth of their heart. Presence matters more than perfection. If you're planning something for a Gemini, don't overthink. Just show up. Be authentic. Let the moment unfold naturally. This is something we can all learn from them. Sometimes, life doesn't need to be so complicated. Sometimes, the best moments are unplanned. Maybe that's why Geminis can find magic in the simplest things, and why others feel so drawn to their carefree energy. But behind that carefree charm hides another secret. When a Gemini connects with you in conversation, time disappears. Have you ever sat down with someone, started talking, and suddenly realized hours passed like minutes? That's a Gemini moment. They live for those deep, endless conversations. For them, speaking isn't just sharing thoughts. It's a journey into your mind. They move effortlessly from one topic to another, as if following the threads of their own curiosity. And it's in those moments that you'll see the real Gemini. Not the smiling face at the party. Not the flirt who teases and retreats. But the mind behind the mystery. In deep conversations, they reveal themselves without even noticing. Because for Gemini, intellectual connection is emotional connection. Their heart is tied to their mind. When they engage with you deeply, they're not just talking. They're opening up. Bit by bit. Word by word. That's why people feel so seen when talking to them. Gemini listens, not just to respond, but to explore you. And when they ask questions, it's not small talk. It's their way of saying, "I'm curious about who you are." In a world full of distractions, this is rare. Their ability to focus, to really be present with you in conversation, makes you feel special. Valued. Understood. And you remember those conversations, long after they're over. If you've ever wondered why you can't forget that one talk you had with a Gemini, now you know. But what's the lesson in all this? It's simple, yet profound. We live in a world where people crave to be heard, to be understood. Gemini reminds us that connection isn't found in grand gestures or constant attention. It's found in moments of presence. In deep listening. In conversations where we're not just speaking, we're discovering each other. Maybe that's why so many people envy Geminis. Not because they're perfect. Not because they always know what to say. But because they know how to make others feel alive through simple, honest connection. And if you're listening now, thinking, "I wish I could connect like that," let me tell you something. You can. Be curious about people. Listen more than you speak. Lose track of time, not with your clock, but with your heart. That's where true connection begins. But we're only halfway through the mind of Gemini. Because what comes next is even more revealing. Their need for privacy. Their fear of being known. Their refusal to be controlled, even by their own emotions. And in the final 3 insights, we'll uncover the deepest truths of all. Truths that might change how you see love, independence, and the fear of losing yourself. So, are you ready to go deeper? Stay with me. What you're about to discover might surprise you the most. Have you ever felt trapped between wanting closeness and needing space? It's a strange feeling, right? You love someone. You care. But part of you whispers, keep a little distance. Keep something for yourself. That's not selfishness. That's Gemini's way of protecting their freedom. Gemini values independence more than anyone realizes. Not just physical freedom. Emotional freedom. The space to think their own thoughts. To feel their own feelings. Even when they're in love, they need to know they're still themselves. That they're not being absorbed into someone else's world. Maybe you've seen it. Maybe you've loved a Gemini and wondered why they pull away when things feel too close. Why their phone is always locked. Why they need solo time even after a perfect date. It's not rejection. It's a need to breathe. For Gemini, privacy isn't secrecy. It's survival. They protect their private world like a treasure. Not because they're hiding something bad. But because their personal space is where they reconnect with their true self. Every text they don't answer, every day they go silent, is them resetting their soul. And here's where many relationships break. Because most people see that distance as a wall. They think Gemini doesn't care. But the truth is, that wall is a door. One that opens only to those who understand why it exists. So if you're close to a Gemini, remember this. Don't push when they retreat. Wait. Respect the silence. Give them space without asking why. And you'll be surprised. They'll come back. Not because you demanded it, but because you respected it. That's the paradox of Gemini's love. The more you respect their independence, the closer they'll let you in. But now, let's look at something that often confuses people. Gemini's mood swings. Their ability to shift from the life of the party to someone who disappears into their own mind. How do they do that? And why does it feel so natural for them? It's simple. Gemini has learned to adapt. Not just socially. Emotionally. Their emotional adaptability is their greatest strength and their deepest curse. In public, they're magnetic. They can walk into a room and instantly find common ground with anyone. They can charm strangers, connect with old friends, and make people feel seen. But what you don't see is that they're constantly adjusting inside. Every mood swing. Every shift in energy. It's not random. It's survival. Imagine standing in front of different mirrors all day. Changing your reflection to fit what each person needs to see. That's what Gemini does. They shift to connect. They shift to protect. And sometimes, they shift because they're tired of being understood only one way. But when the night ends, and they're finally alone, the reflection disappears. And that's when the real Gemini appears. Quiet. Thoughtful. Sometimes lost. Because after all the adapting, they're left wondering, who am I? When no one's watching. This is why their social brilliance is both admired and misunderstood. People envy how easily Gemini connects. How they move through conversations like dancers in the dark. But what people don't see is how lonely that dance can be. If you're a Gemini listening now, maybe you've felt this. The joy of connection, followed by the exhaustion of constant performance. Let yourself rest. It's okay to stop shifting. It's okay to be one version of you, even just for a moment. And if you love a Gemini, learn to see beyond the moods. Beyond the shifts. Love them when they're quiet, just as much as when they're shining. That's where trust begins. Now, there's something else. Something people rarely talk about. Gemini's anger. You might think they're too lighthearted to get truly angry. But that's not true. When Gemini gets angry, it's not loud at first. It's sudden. Focused. Intense. Like a spark lighting dry leaves. You'll feel it, even if they say nothing. Why? Because Gemini holds things in. They suppress confusion, frustration, misunderstanding, until it breaks. And when it does, it's not random anger. It's clarity. It's their soul finally saying, "I've had enough." What's strange is how quickly people listen when Gemini gets angry. It's like the world pauses. People realize, this isn't just frustration. This is years of silent struggle speaking all at once. And what makes it powerful is that Gemini doesn't get angry often. They avoid conflict. They'd rather change the subject. Smile. Keep things light. But when they can't anymore, their anger becomes unforgettable. Yet, even then, it's not about hurting others. It's about expressing the hurt they've hidden. Their anger isn't about power. It's about pain. So if you face a Gemini's anger, listen. Don't defend. Don't explain. Let their emotions flow. You might hear the words they were too scared to say before. Words that could heal your connection, if you're patient enough to hear them. And when the anger fades, you'll see it. That vulnerable side they hide. The side that longs to be understood, but doesn't know how to ask. Finally, let's explore something even more confusing. Reconciliation. How do you fix things with a Gemini after a fight? The answer is complicated. Because reconciliation isn't a straight path for them. Their emotions shift too quickly. One day, they might seem open. The next, distant again. You'll wonder, are we okay? Or are we not? This unpredictability is not meant to punish you. It's their way of processing hurt while protecting themselves. They change their mind not to confuse you, but because they're confused themselves. And here's the key. Don't push for closure. Don't demand answers. Instead, give them consistency. Show them you're there. That your care doesn't depend on their mood. Be the calm in their inner storm. And slowly, they'll trust you again. Not because you solved the problem, but because you stayed when they couldn't even stay with themselves. That's how you heal with a Gemini. Not through logic. Not through grand apologies. Through quiet patience. Through presence. And maybe, through learning that their unpredictability is not rejection. It's self-protection. What we've seen so far paints a picture of a soul always moving. Always searching. Always shifting. But what if I told you, the last 3 insights about Gemini reveal the deepest, most controversial truths of all. Truths about jealousy, about romance, and about the kind of love that Gemini gives only when they've found someone who can truly challenge their mind and calm their heart. Stay with me. Because what comes next might surprise you more than anything we've shared so far. Have you ever met someone who loves you, yet never tries to control you? Someone who trusts you so deeply. They never question where you've been or who you've talked to. This might sound like a fantasy. But for Gemini, this is how they love. Unlike many signs, jealousy isn't natural to them. They don't want to own you. They don't believe in keeping you in a tight box of expectations. Instead, they believe love means freedom. And freedom means trust. Imagine being with someone who lets you be yourself. Completely. That's what Gemini offers. They don't chase after every message you get on your phone. They don't demand constant explanations. Why? Because they know how heavy that feels. They've spent their whole life protecting their own independence. So they naturally give that same gift to you. Think about the last time you felt suffocated in a relationship. Maybe it was the constant questions, the subtle doubts, the unspoken pressure to prove yourself. Now imagine the opposite. A connection where you're trusted without conditions. That's Gemini's love. But there's a reason behind it. They know that love born from control isn't real. It's fear. And Gemini refuses to build their relationships on fear. Of course, this doesn't mean they don't care. In fact, it's the opposite. It takes deep confidence to love without jealousy. To let your partner be free and still believe they'll choose you. Gemini embodies this. And people envy it. Maybe you've seen a Gemini man loving someone. He doesn't cling. He supports. He lets her grow. And in return, she often finds herself more drawn to him. That's the secret of Gemini love. They give space. And somehow, that space pulls people closer. But Gemini's freedom isn't limited to how they love. It extends to how they express affection too. Their kisses, their romantic gestures, their tender moments, aren't rushed. They're intentional. They know how to create atmosphere. Their touch isn't casual. Their presence isn't random. They build anticipation. They make even small moments feel magical. I once heard someone say, a kiss from a Gemini doesn't just touch your lips. It stays in your memory. That's the truth. They don't rush connection. They build it, moment by moment. Every glance. Every word. Every pause. That's why people often find themselves addicted to their affection. It's not about physical attraction alone. It's about how Gemini makes you feel wanted, in mind, body, and soul. But why are they like this? Why do they make romance feel like art? The answer lies in their mind. Gemini is ruled by curiosity. Endless curiosity. They want to understand everything. How your mind works. What makes you laugh? What makes you think? What makes you feel alive? And that curiosity extends into love. When they love, they explore. Every interaction is a chance to learn more about you. Every conversation is a map of your inner world. Every touch is a question, can you feel how much I want to understand you? This is why love with Gemini feels both exciting and profound. You're not just loved. You're studied. Admired. Unraveled. And here's something important to understand. Gemini doesn't separate love from learning. For them, relationships aren't static. They're dynamic. A place to grow. To question. To evolve. If you're with a Gemini, you're not just a partner. You're a companion on their lifelong journey of exploration. They want you to challenge their thoughts. To bring new ideas. To question their beliefs. Not because they want to debate, but because that's how they feel alive. Picture a couple sitting at a small cafe, talking for hours. Not just about their day, but about life. Dreams. Philosophy. Ideas that make them rethink everything. If one of them is a Gemini, they're in heaven. For them, love is not just touch. It's thought. Not just feeling, but understanding. If you want to win a Gemini's heart, remember this. Be curious. Be open-minded. Share your thoughts, your passions, your questions about life. Don't fear debate. Don't fear difference. Geminis don't seek agreement. They seek stimulation. Mental, emotional, intellectual. That's what keeps their heart beating. And here's a truth that might surprise you. They'd rather stay single than settle for a shallow connection. A Gemini doesn't want a partner who only smiles and nods. They crave someone who challenges them. Someone who makes them think differently. Someone who inspires them to become more. This is why their relationships, when deep, are unbreakable. Because they're built not just on love, but on growth. On mutual exploration. On the shared adventure of learning together. So if you're in love with a Gemini, or hoping to be, ask yourself this. Are you ready to be their partner in curiosity? Can you accept that their mind needs as much affection as their heart? If you can, then you've found something rare. Something powerful. A connection that evolves with every conversation, every argument, every dream shared under the stars. That's Gemini's gift. They don't just love you. They grow with you. They push you. They invite you to explore life beside them. And in that journey, you'll discover not just them. You'll discover parts of yourself you never knew existed. But the journey doesn't end here. Because the final 3 truths about Gemini reveal their most hidden fears, their deepest desires, and the controversial reasons why they may forever remain both irresistible and impossible to fully understand. Stay with me. What comes next will change everything you thought you knew about Gemini love. One of the most fascinating things about Gemini is their ability to wear 2 faces without ever feeling fake. And maybe you've seen this before. At work, they're one person. With friends, they're someone else. In love, they might surprise you completely. But what's important to understand is that this isn't manipulation. It's survival. Gemini doesn't change to deceive. They change to adapt. They read a room like a book. They sense energies. They adjust naturally. It's their way of navigating life without getting stuck in one version of themselves. Maybe you've heard someone call them two-faced. But here's the truth no one sees. They're not hiding behind masks. They're expressing different pieces of who they are. Pieces that coexist inside them every day. Gemini wears a double facade because life demands it. And while it looks effortless, it's not always easy for them. Behind each shift, there's the constant question, who am I? In this moment? Have you ever felt different at home, at work, or with friends? Of course, you have. Gemini simply embraces that fully. Their duality isn't about lies. It's about freedom. The freedom to be all parts of themselves, without apology. And when you accept this about them, when you stop asking why can't you just be one person, you'll realize something. You'll realize that what you're seeing is a soul exploring every possibility of being human. That's something we can all learn from. But perhaps the deepest truth about Gemini, the one very few understand, is hidden in their desire for love. Not just any love. Not ordinary connection. But a partner who challenges them mentally. Who makes them think. Question. Wonder. For Gemini, a relationship isn't just about comfort. It's about discovery. They don't want someone who agrees with everything they say. They want someone who surprises them. Someone who pushes their mind as much as their heart. This is why their relationships are often unconventional. Why they sometimes seem distant, even when they care. They're searching. Not just for love. But for stimulation. For growth. I once heard a Gemini say, I don't fall in love with people. I fall in love with minds. And that's the core of their soul. They're not looking for someone who fits a role. They're looking for someone who can walk beside them, mentally and emotionally. As an equal, and sometimes, as a challenge. So, if you love a Gemini, understand this, your mind matters. Your ideas matter. Your willingness to grow matters. That's the kind of connection that will hold their attention, and their heart. They don't want to feel owned. They want to feel inspired. That's the love Gemini dreams of. And when they find it, they give more than their heart. They give their curiosity. Their energy. Their endless desire to learn with you, not just love you. And maybe now, you understand why people envy Gemini. It's not because they're easy to love. It's because they're impossible to replace. So, what does this all mean? In the end, Gemini isn't the two-faced sign people claim. They're not fickle. They're not shallow. They're complex. Restless. Searching. They are the embodiment of change. Of freedom. Of possibility. And perhaps, that's something we all need to remember. We're all a little like Gemini. Searching for balance between freedom and connection. Between being known and protecting our private world. Between offering love and fearing what it might take from us. Gemini just lives that truth more visibly. If you saw yourself in this story today, or maybe saw someone you love, know this. Their duality isn't the problem. It's their strength. Let them be many things at once. Let them change. And maybe, through loving them, you'll learn to accept your own contradictions too. If this video helped you understand yourself, or someone in your life, don't forget to subscribe. You're not alone on this journey. And together, we'll explore even more about astrology, psychology, and human nature in the videos ahead. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe a Gemini who feels misunderstood. Or someone who's loved one, without knowing why they felt so distant. And tell me in the comments, do you see yourself in the mind of Gemini? Or are you loving someone who wears these two faces? Stay curious. Stay open. Because next time, we'll dive even deeper into the hidden sides of the zodiac you've never seen before. Until then, take care of your soul. And honor every version of yourself.